The ultimatum. The massive shadow that fell across New York City at exactly 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time would be remembered as the moment everything changed. The Dominion Council's flagship, a behemoth of dark metal and pulsing energy, hung motionless above the United Nations building like a storm cloud made of nightmares. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the roof of the UN headquarters, her dark hair whipping in the wind created by the alien vessel's gravitational field. As Earth's appointed first contact specialist, she had trained her entire career for this moment. But no amount of training could have prepared her for the sheer overwhelming presence of the kilometer-long warship that blotted out the afternoon sun. "Ma'am, they're hailing us," said Lieutenant Rodriguez, holding out a communication device that hummed with alien technology. Elena had insisted on meeting the visitors in person rather than hiding behind screens and diplomatic barriers. If humanity was about to make first contact, she wanted to look them in the eye. The air shimmered and distorted as a holographic figure materialized before them. War Commander Thektar of the Dominion Council stood 3 meters tall, his 4 arms ending in clawed hands that could crush a human skull like an eggshell. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, and his compound eyes reflected the city lights below in thousands of fractured images. "I am War Commander Thektar, voice of the Dominion Council." The creature spoke through a translation device that made his words sound like grinding stone. "You will identify yourself, primitive." Elena stepped forward, suppressing every instinct that screamed at her to run. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome you to our world and hope for peaceful dialogue between our peoples." Thektar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Peaceful dialogue. How quaint. "Your species has been observed and catalogued. You have reached the minimal threshold for resource extraction. The Dominion Council hereby claims dominion over this world and its inhabitants." The words hit Elena like a physical blow, but she kept her expression neutral. Around the world, billions of people were watching this moment unfold on every screen and device available. She had to stay strong for all of them. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," Elena said carefully. "Earth is a sovereign world. We're willing to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange, but we don't recognize any claims of dominion over our planet." Thektar's 4 arms spread wide in a gesture that was unmistakably threatening. "You misunderstand your position, meat creature. This is not a negotiation. The Dominion Council has conquered 1,247 worlds across 17 star systems. Your compliance is not required, merely expected." The alien commander gestured with one of his claws, and the holographic display showed images that made Elena's blood run cold. Burning cities, fleeing populations, entire civilizations ground under the heel of Dominion forces, world after world, reduced to resource farms for the Council's endless appetite. "Your world will provide 40% of its annual resource output to the Dominion Council," Thektar continued. "This includes all rare metals, energy sources, food production, and 1 million of your kind annually for labor allocation. In return, we will not exterminate your species entirely." Elena felt the weight of 7 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. Every word she spoke now would echo through history. "And if we refuse?" Thektar's compound eyes seemed to glitter with anticipation. "Then your world burns, and we take what we need from the ashes. The choice is yours, primitive. You have 30 of your rotation cycles to consider our generous offer." The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving Elena standing alone on the rooftop as the massive alien ship began to withdraw into the upper atmosphere. But she knew it wasn't leaving Earth entirely. It was waiting, watching, preparing. 3 hours later, Elena sat in the most classified briefing room on Earth, 6 levels beneath the Pentagon. The faces around the table represented the most powerful military and political leaders on the planet, but every one of them looked as shaken as she felt. 40% of everything," President Chen repeated, staring at the classified documents spread before him. "They want nearly half of our global production, plus 1 million people every year. It's not tribute, It's enslavement. General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, slammed her fist on the table. We can't fight them. That ship alone could probably glass every major city on Earth. Our most advanced weapons are chemical rockets and nuclear warheads. They travel between stars. Maybe they don't need to know that, said a quiet voice from the far end of the table. Everyone turned to look at Admiral Marcus Chen, a thin man in his 60s who had run Earth's most classified military programs for the past 2 decades. His clearance level was so high that even the president didn't know everything he worked on. Explain, President Chen said, leaning forward. Admiral Chen activated a holographic projector in the center of the table. The image that appeared made everyone in the room gasp. It showed a massive underground facility carved into the bedrock beneath the Colorado mountains, filled with sleek spacecraft that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. Project Silent Storm has been operational for 18 years, Admiral Chen said calmly. Ever since we detected the first alien probe in our solar system back in 2157. We've been preparing for this day ever since. Elena stared at the holographic ships in amazement. Those are human designs. Reverse engineered from alien technology, we've been collecting for nearly 2 decades, Admiral Chen confirmed. Every probe they sent to study us, we captured. Every piece of their tech that fell into our hands, we analyzed and improved upon. They think we're primitives with chemical rockets. They have no idea what we've actually been building. General Hayes studied the images with professional interest. How many ships? 47 combat vessels, ranging from single-pilot interceptors to battleships that can match anything in their fleet, plus defensive installations throughout the solar system that they've never detected. President Chen rubbed his temples, trying to process the magnitude of what he was hearing. You're telling me we've been running a secret space program for 18 years? Not just us, Admiral Chen replied. This is a joint operation involving every major power on Earth. Russia, China, the European Federation, everyone. When faced with an external threat, humanity did something unprecedented. We actually worked together. Elena felt a spark of hope for the first time since the encounter on the rooftop. Can we actually fight them? We can do more than fight them, Admiral Chen said with a grim smile. We can win. But it means revealing everything we've been hiding, and there's no going back from that. Once we show our hand, the galaxy will know that humanity is not the primitive species they thought we were. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. They were talking about starting an interstellar war with beings who had conquered over 1,000 worlds. It should have been suicide. But Elena found herself thinking about Thektar's casual dismissal of human life, his assumption that they would simply submit to enslavement. They made one mistake, Elena said finally. They assumed we would be like every other species they've conquered. They never bothered to study what makes humans different. And what's that? President Chen asked. Elena stood up, feeling the weight of history settling on her shoulders. We don't break. We adapt. We survive. And when someone threatens our home, we don't just fight. We fight to win, no matter the cost. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. Then we're in agreement. Operation Silent Storm goes active in 29 days. As the meeting broke up, and the world's leaders dispersed to begin the most ambitious military operation in human history, Elena remained behind, staring at the holographic images of humanity's hidden fleet. In 29 days, they would either save their world or die trying. But as she looked at those sleek, deadly ships that no alien eye had ever seen, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not just hope, but confidence. Thektar and his Dominion Council were about to learn that humanity had spent 10,000 years clawing its way to the top of the food chain, and they hadn't gotten there by backing down from a fight. The response. 29 days later, War Commander Thektar returned to Earth's orbit expecting to find a broken, submissive species ready to accept their new reality as servants of the Dominion Council. Instead, he found something that would shake the foundations of everything the Council believed about power, conquest, and the nature of primitive species. Captain Sarah Mitchell sat in the command chair of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first battleship, hidden in the shadow of Earth's moon. Around her, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew ran final systems checks. Every person on board had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not survive the next few hours. "Contact confirmed," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the sensor station. "The Dominion flagship is moving into position above New York, just like before. But this time they brought friends." Sarah studied the tactical display with professional calm. The alien fleet was impressive. 12 major warships and twice as many support vessels, enough firepower to turn Earth's surface into molten glass. It was exactly the show of force that Thektar would use to intimidate any primitive species into immediate surrender. "They're not scanning for us," noted Commander Torres from the tactical station. "Their sensors are focused on the planet's surface. They're looking for signs of panic, mass evacuations, anything that would indicate surrender." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then they're going to be very disappointed." "Commander Park, signal the fleet. Operation Silent Storm is now active." Throughout the solar system, 46 other human warships received the signal and began moving into position. They had been waiting in the asteroid belt, hidden behind Jupiter's moons, and drifting in the outer system where no alien sensor would think to look. For 18 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. On the surface of Earth, Elena Vasquez stood once again on the roof of the UN building. But this time she wasn't alone. Representatives from every nation on Earth flanked her, presenting a united front that the galaxy had never seen before. When Thektar's hologram materialized, his compound eyes registered what might have been surprise at the assembled crowd. "You have had sufficient time to consider our offer," Thektar announced without preamble. "Present your surrender terms and prepare for the transfer of authority." Elena stepped forward, and this time there was no fear in her voice. "War Commander Thektar, on behalf of the United Earth Government and all humanity, I have an official response to your demands." She held up a simple piece of paper, an ancient human tradition that seemed almost absurd in the face of interstellar technology. But sometimes the old ways carried the most weight. "Our response is no." Thektar's mandibles clicked in what was definitely not amusement this time. "You dare refuse the Dominion Council? Your world will burn for this defiance." "I don't think so," Elena replied calmly. "You see, you made a crucial error in your calculations. You assumed we were helpless. You assumed we were alone. And most importantly, you assumed we were afraid." High above Earth's atmosphere, Sarah Mitchell watched as the alien fleet began to move into attack formation. They were positioning their weapons to begin orbital bombardment of major population centers, the standard Dominion tactic for dealing with defiant primitives. "They're powering up their main guns," Commander Torres reported. 60 seconds to weapons range. "All ships, this is Prometheus Command," Sarah broadcast to the hidden human fleet. "Activate stealth systems and move to attack positions. Remember, we only get one chance at surprise. Make it count." Throughout the solar system, human warships that had been invisible to alien sensors suddenly began to move. The technology they had reverse-engineered from captured alien probes included advanced stealth capabilities that made their ships effectively invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Thektar was still threatening Elena when his tactical officer suddenly shrieked in alarm in the harsh Dominion language. The war commander spun toward his control stations, his compound eyes widening as he saw what his sensors were now detecting. 47 human warships had just appeared on his screens, emerging from stealth at point-blank range. They surrounded his fleet in a perfect three-dimensional formation that spoke of tactical brilliance and coordination that no primitive species should have possessed. "Impossible," Thektar hissed. "Your kind barely has the technology to reach your own moon." Sarah Mitchell's voice cut across the communication channel, calm and professional. "War Commander Thektar, this is Captain Sarah Mitchell of the United Earth Space Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to withdraw from Earth space, or we will open fire. The alien commander's 4 arms gestured frantically at his tactical displays. His fleet of 24 ships was surrounded by nearly 50 human vessels, and his sensors were detecting weapons signatures that matched or exceeded his own technology. "This is not possible," Thektar repeated, but his voice carried less certainty now. "Your species is classified as Level 2 primitives. You cannot possess this technology. Apparently your classification system needs updating," Sarah replied. "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal procedures." Thektar's tactical officer was chattering rapidly in the Dominion language, and Elena could see the war commander's posture change as he received the report. His confidence was cracking as he realized that humanity had been playing a much deeper game than he ever imagined. "Even if you have ships, you cannot know how to use them effectively," Thektar said, but now he sounded like he was trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. "The Dominion Council has conquered 1,000 worlds. We have centuries of combat experience. And we have something you don't," Elena said from the surface. "We have imagination. We have adaptability. And we have 5,000 years of experience fighting wars against impossible odds." At Sarah's signal, the human fleet demonstrated exactly what Elena meant. Instead of forming traditional battle lines like every other species in the galaxy, the human ships began moving in complex, seemingly random patterns that confused and frustrated the alien targeting systems. "Thektar, you've studied our history," Elena continued. "You know we're a young species, but did you bother to learn how we survived to reach the stars? We didn't do it by building the biggest stick. We did it by being smarter, faster, and more adaptable than everything that tried to kill us." The human ships began executing maneuvers that no alien fleet had ever seen before. They used gravitational slingshots around debris, coordinated attacks from multiple vectors simultaneously, and employed tactical innovations that made Thektar's military experience seem suddenly obsolete. "Withdraw now, and tell the Dominion Council that Earth is under the protection of the United Earth Space Force," Sarah announced. "Any future attempts at conquest or tribute collection will be met with the full force of human military response." For the first time in over a century of conquest, War Commander Thektar faced a decision he had never encountered before: retreat or risk total annihilation of his fleet. His tactical officers were reporting that the human weapons were not only equivalent to Dominion technology, but showed innovations that suggested they might actually be superior. "This is impossible," he whispered one more time, but his hands were already moving to initiate withdrawal procedures. "Commander Thektar," Elena said, her voice now carrying the authority of an entire species that had just announced its arrival on the galactic stage. "Humanity extends an offer of peaceful coexistence to any species willing to treat us as equals. But those who come as conquerors will find that we are not the primitives you expected." As the Dominion fleet began its retreat, Elena felt the weight of history settling around her. This was the moment when humanity stopped being victims and became players in the greater galactic community. But more than that, it was the moment when the galaxy learned that some species cannot be conquered because they refuse to accept defeat. The human fleet maintained their positions until the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, then began the process of returning to their hidden bases. The secret was out now. Humanity was no longer hiding their capabilities. But as Sarah Mitchell guided the Prometheus back toward Earth, she knew this was just the beginning. Word would spread throughout the galaxy about the primitives who had turned the tables on the mighty Dominion Council. Other oppressed species would look toward Earth with hope, while the Council's enemies would see an opportunity for alliance. Humanity had just stepped onto a stage much larger and more dangerous than anything they had ever known. But as Elena watched the alien ships disappear into the stars, she felt no fear. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and their own near extinction from environmental collapse. They had always found a way to adapt, to overcome, to survive. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to awaken a species that had spent 10,000 years climbing to the top of the food chain. And humanity was just getting started.